What's going on, everybody? So welcome back. We are on to part 2 of this guide on the Damage 2.0 system. I've had a couple people that had asked me to put some stuff together, especially new players that have no clue and are a little bit unsure of everything, and sometimes it's just easier to find a video on it. So hopefully this video helps you guys out. Should be just a 3-part series, and then I'll do more videos on different things as time goes on, as people ask me. But anyway, so this is part 2. If you've missed part 1, which is physical damage, I will have a link below. And then part 3 will be the dual elemental damage mods, how they combine and what they become. This here is actually going to be episode number 2, and we're going to talk about the basic elementals, the original elemental damage that are still effective. Especially with guys who don't have a lot of mods yet, this should help you out in understanding how the elementals work. So let's get started. So you got your basic damage types. We discussed that in the last round. Elementals can be applied on top of the weapons-based damage, depending upon what elemental mods are applied. There are certain weapons that deal only elemental damage. And there are 4 primary elemental types that we're going to discuss today. So you got cold, electric, heat, and toxic. Okay, or toxin. And then in the next episode, we'll talk about combining these to become the new dual statted elementals. So that way you reduce the old rainbow build that was in damage 1.0. That, you know, if you had fire and ice, you got an enemy on fire that's actually freezing, and it made no real sense, or what they call the rainbow build. Okay, so let's get into this then, and let's start here with the cold damage. So, again, these are also going to help affect your status chance. So if you've got a status card and you add it to it and you raise your status chance, this is the type of, I will tell you the effect that you have just by adding this card on as well as we did in the first one. So, starting with the cold mod, cold damage, okay. It deals bonus damage against standard shields and armor, but reduced damage against fossilized flesh, so keep that in mind. The effect, the status effect or proc effect that is with this will be called slowdown, so it's going to actually slow down your enemies. So what do we have? What are we looking at? So the mods that we're looking at cryo rounds. Okay, cryo rounds is your rifle mod, and it will give you an extra, a max of 90% extra damage, or cold damage, however you want to call it. Then you have chilling grasp that will give you a extra 90% as well in freeze damage. Okay. Then we're gonna have deep freeze, which is your pistol. And that's going to give you an extra max 60% damage, or freeze damage. You also have Ice Storm, which is another pistol mod. It's a V polarity, which will give you an extra 40% more damage, freeze damage. So if you combine Deep Freeze and Ice Storm together on the same, you could essentially get yourself up to an extra 100% ice damage. And then you have North Wind, which is your melee freeze damage, which can max out at an additional 60%. Okay. Again, it's pretty good against the light shields in the Grenier. Has no effect on Corpus at all. And it does have some effect on the the infested, but for the most part it actually has a negative effect on the infested. This mod, the cold damage mods, are more in tune with being put into an elemental to make something else, which we will discuss in the next episode. Okay? And then we're going to move on from there, and hopefully we're going to move into electric mods. Okay, so electric damage, it deals bonus damage against machinery and robotics, but it also has a reduced damage against armor. Okay? So just keep that in mind. The damage type has a status of chain attack. Okay, so the chaining is the same amount of electrical damage dealt to your target as around it, so it can deal electrical damage to other targets as well. Very effective, obviously. If you have bolt, bolt's very effective. Bolt is electrical anyway. So you can just go nuts with all your electricity. Again, you can combine this to make something else as far as the dual mods, and we'll get into that later. The with this one, I should just get into this. The innate electrical weapons, or weapons that actually have the innate electricity already there, will be the Prova, the Amphis, only on the jump attack, the Synops, which is a clan weapon, the Obex, which again on the jump attack only, the Lecta, and the Lenka. Okay, those weapons all have physical, all have elemental electric as a standard with them, so just keep that in mind. Volband's Tesla does electrical damage, and Volt Shock and Overload add bonus electrical damage, so that's also another one. Okay, so the mods you're looking for with this will be Stormbringer, which is a rifle mod, and that at max can give you an extra 90% electrical damage. Charged Shell for shotgun at max will give you an extra 90% electrical damage. Convulsion for pistol at max you can bring up to 90% electrical damage. Then you have Shocking Touch for melee, which can max out at 60%. And you also have Focused Energy, which can max out at 60% for melee as well. So if you put both Shocking Touch and Focused Energy on, you can have a max 120% electrical damage. Okay, so what is it good for? Grineer against the machines, so you know, the little rollers and those things, it's pretty good against them. But it does have a negative effect on the armor, so keep that in mind. Against Corpus, it's got a good effect against Corpus. It's like a 50% increase against Corpus because they're all electrical anyway, so it does the robotic damage against Corpus. It's really good. And against Infested, it doesn't really have anything that you can do against Infested. There's actually like no physical effect. I mean, the Infested are pretty much already dead anyway, though. There's nothing electrical running through them. So keep that in mind. So this one is also a very good combination mod or dual mod, and we'll get into that one later. Okay. Then we are going to talk about heat damage. Okay. Heat damage deals bonus damage against the cloned and infested, so just keep that in mind. But it has a reduced damage against shields, proto shields. So there's some good and some bad to this. The proc will deal fire damage over time, so it's a damage over time, which is always good. And it obviously can be combined to make a dual stat mod. Now, weapons, innate weapons that have heat on them will be the Ignis, the dual heat swords on the slam attack only, the heat dagger on the slam attack, and the heat sword on the slam attack. Okay, it has to be that particular attack in order for the extra heat damage to be dealt. Ember's Fireball, Overheat, Fire Blast, and World on Fire only deal heat damage with 100% proc. So keep that in mind. Okay. Cards you're looking for heat damage. We are going to be looking at Incendiary Coat, which is for shotgun. 90% can be maxed out to 90%. Also, Blaze for shotgun can be maxed out to 60%. So you can effectively, if you have both of those maxed out, you can give yourself 150% extra heat damage. Okay? For rifle, we have Hellfire, which can max out at 90%. And you have Wildfire, which can be maxed out at 60%. If you put them together, we've got another 150% extra damage for heat that you can have. Many times I don't run them both together. If I do run them both together on the same setup, I'm going to have two elementals in there, two dual elementals running. I have a couple weapons that are dual elementals, and we'll talk about dual elementals later on in the next episode. Then we're going to talk Heated Charge for pistol. which maxes out at 90%, and Molten Impact for melee, which will max out at 90% extra damage as well. So those are your heat mods. Good against the Flesh and the Grineer. Not good against the Corpus. And very good against the Infested. Okay? Just keep that in mind. Always dealing fire over time as well. Alright? And then finally, we are going to talk about toxic damage. Yay! Okay, so toxic damage that deals bonus poison damage, or referred to as toxin. In the current system, okay, in Damage 2.0, it reduces damage. The toxin damage does not reduce damage to robotics. Okay, so poison damage will always damage health and bypass shields completely. So keep that in mind, okay? Weapons that are using this as an innate ability already, that are already there, are the Acid, the Torrid, the Embolist, one of my favorite weapons, the Mire, the Dual Ichors, and the Stinger mod for the Stinger gun for the Dijing. So Acid, Torrid, Embolist, all are clan weapons. Mire can be picked up in the store. It's a fast attack melee. Dual Ichor and the Stinger can only be also picked up from clan dojos. So only one weapon that is not in the clan dojo that effectively deals toxic damage as a base. Guys, I'm sorry. Saren has the ability to add toxic damage to your melee with her mod, and Anti-Toxin Warframe mod for resistance to toxic damage as well is good if you want to use that. But that's just to help yourself, okay? So you don't, because sometimes if you're like running the Torrid, you can kill yourself. Maybe the Anti-Toxin does help you when you're doing that. Great weapon for dual modding, or dual elemental, and we'll talk about that later, or combined elemental, however you want to call it. So we're looking at the contagious spread for the shotgun. You can max it out to 90%. Infested clip for the rifle, you can max that to 90%. Pathogen rounds for the pistol, you can max that to 90%. And Fever Strike for melee, you can max it to 90%. How effective is it just as a straight mod itself? Toxic, it does it deals damage over time to the health of the enemies. It has good and bad against the Grineer. It's mostly good except for like the little rollers and stuff where it deals a negative damage, so just keep that in mind. Corpus, pretty good against the Corpus. Basically the flesh and the basic shields of the Corpus. It has a negative effect against the robotics of the Corpus. And then Infested, it's a give or take. Okay, so you have a 50% increase in one side, and you have a 50% decrease on another set of the Infested. So there's good and bad to it in terms of Infested. And that's where we're at with the basic 4 mods, or element mods that we're talking about. The basic 4 element damage, not mods, elemental damage that is in the game. With Damage 2.0, so hopefully that does help you guys out a bit more as we get farther into this building. Like I said, we have a total of 3 for this series. Part number 3 will be linked below when I have that up and running, and part number 1 is already linked below, so take a look at that, which was physical damage. The next episode, again, we're going to talk about combined elements, or dual elemental, or whatever you want to call it, and we'll get into pretty good detail on that as well. So thanks for watching. Please hit that like button if you did like it. Subscribe if you're not subscribed. Any comments below, please leave comments. And we'll catch you guys in the next episode. Thank you for watching. See you later.